Welcome to Step 12, Study Number 2. We've been talking about addictions, and I have mentioned before that my addiction is food addiction, and I want to explain that just a teensy bit, because the theme of this study is our story. The importance of sharing our stories, the importance of helping other people get through the areas that we used to be in. My story is simply this. I had chosen food as my escape from all things painful, all things exciting, all things boring, all things ever. I wanted to reward myself. I wanted to have affection. I wanted to feel like I had control over my life. Doggone it, if food wasn't going to be the answer to all that. When I was anxious, when I was afraid, when I was sad, food. Hey, why not? Some people don't believe in food addiction, so let me explain that. I'm not talking about people who eat too much, because there are people who drink too much who are not alcoholics, and it's the same with food. I'm not talking about people who um, just think about food on Thanksgiving and want seconds or thirds and they stuff themselves till they're sick. No, I'm talking about people who do that on a regular basis. I'm not talking about someone who's sitting on Monday night thinking, oh, I could really use a hot chocolate right now because I feel so stressed. No, food addicts don't need to be stressed. We overeat and stuff our faces because there's air. I mean, it's like any other addiction. We have an obsession over food. We wake up thinking about it. As we eat our first meal, we're thinking about the next one. As we eat our next one, we're plotting what we're going to have the next day and the week after that. If someone invites us to a party, we don't think about what we're going to wear. We don't think about how we're going to act as far as, what we say and if we'll come across okay. What we think about is what food are they going to have? And will I be able to get enough? Food addiction is like alcohol and drug addiction in that if you feel the need for a fix, you'll do anything to get it. Sometimes people will steal food. Sometimes people will steal money to get food. In the middle of the night, sometimes people drive out to grab whatever they are having a craving for. In the instant moment, there's food hidden around the house, just like drug addicts and alcoholics might hide things in the house. There's food hidden in the house where you don't want anyone to see that you're eating. It's secretive, and there's deception involved, because as soon as you finish a big binge, you hide all the evidence. And for me, as a wife who was in charge of buying the groceries and cooking and so on, I got away with a lot because I could buy whatever I wanted and pretend it was part of the regular grocery bill and eat it, and nobody would know the better. This is what addiction is. It's an obsession of the mind. Regardless of the substance, it's an obsession. Food addiction is not necessarily everyone who's heavy. It's not even everyone who's not heavy. Slim people can be food addicts, and heavy people might not be food addicts. You just can't tell by looking at a person. Food addiction is a strong calling to yourself whenever you're awake. If you're in the middle of addiction, food is calling you. If you have food in front of your face, but it's not your favorite thing, guess what? Maybe you'll put it aside and go grab something that's your favorite. Or maybe you'll eat them both. Or maybe you'll eat something you don't like just because you have the need to binge and overeat. That's food addiction. I discovered that that was what was going on in my life and that I was powerless over it back in 2013. It was an overhaul of how I thought and how I behaved, and I was in recovery and successful for many years. And then I relapsed, and that is what I confessed at the beginning of these 12-step studies. I relapsed, and I needed to get back on track. I'm grateful to God to say that I'm back on track now after going through almost all of these steps, And I realized that I need to go back to step one and start over, but we need to do that every day anyway. My story is one of hope and excitement and joy and peace, because the emotions that I had while I was active in my addiction were very painful. And I did hide. I did hide. And isolation was tough. But now, I mean, even though I relapsed a little bit, I still have a tremendous joy and peace that came after being clean for so long. And I don't want to lose it. So that is my story. And our study today urges you to write down your story. And don't be afraid about sharing it, even if it's something that people don't generally understand. Your words have the power to help someone who's lost in the same trap you were lost in. That's it for study 2.